8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Push. Very good, Ibrahim. Hey, Linda, not Linda, who's that? Charlene?
Yes.
You was going. All right. Y'all can take a seat, relax, and get yourself comfortable, get ready for your presentation. My wife is going to take over at this point. Yes, sir.
Soke, my wife said she had a conflicting class, but she'll be in for a presentation.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
My wife is coordinating all that, so I'm going to be quiet and just watch for the rest of the time until we get to the end. I think we might have to, I don't know how to do all this, Donnie. If you know how to mute somebody on your side, please, if they're not talking, if they're not doing the presentation. I don't know if you know everybody by name, by sight. So
it's okay. You don't have to.
Raise your hand.
It's okay.
Yes.
You don't in this platform. You don't have administrative control to mute anybody, so you can't do anything. You can only what we're doing now is the full capabilities of the platform. So we can't mute. We can't. Stop their video. We can't do any of that stuff here.
All right. I understand. Yeah. Thank you. I understand.
We need to do that. We have to use Zoom.
Yeah. We got to try to find out how to use that on the portal. They got it now established on the portal, so maybe next time we start using Zoom, especially when we got technical people that can handle that side of it for me, and I won't have to worry about it. But I'm gonna sit down now and let my wife take over, Miss Rasheedah, and I'm looking forward to hearing some exciting presentations. There may be some more people joining us. I sent the link out to about 17 members here, and I only see a few. So we didn't even get halfway today. So others may join on. And please understand, that's Bara in the corner over there. I don't know what he is on your screen. He's mute. And he can't hear and he can't talk. So, but I work with him privately most of the time. He's a brown belt. He started with me when he was 12 years old. So we're going to try to do this. And I don't know sign language, anything like that. So if anybody does, then feel free to translate it so that he can probably understand what's going on. All right. So wife, you got it. I'm quiet. Let's roll.
Jumbo, everybody.
Jumbo.
My intention for this was to reinforce our subtitle, a martial arts institution of higher learning. And I recently heard a DVD interview of Soke and Professor Ronald Burgess. And he said his favorite weapon, I believe, was his intellect. So I thought that was really a good segue for us. I want us not to be nervous. I want us to pretend that we are at a family reunion and we're just sharing with things about our ancestors, because most of these people are expert about that person, and we're all going to learn today about that particular person. So first is Aisa. Aisa, are you here? Who's going to introduce herself and the person who she's sharing.
Okay, my name is Aisa, and I'm going to be talking about Bessie Harrison. Okay, Bessie Harrison was born in 1988. Bessie Harrison was born in 1988. Alma Mater, University, California Institute of the Arts. Known for illustration, Bessie Harrison, born in 1988, is a writer, illustrator, and filmmaker based in Brooklyn, in New York. She was born in Virginia, and her films and artworks are rooted in the Caribbean heritage and folklore. Early life. Harrison was born in 1988 to an African American father and an Indian mother with Trinidad and Tobago. She was anti tag, talented and gifted, and as a quiet and described as a quiet and polite student by her tag teacher, Mrs. Coleman. She went to um, Nandua Middle in ACPS. She earned her BA and in 2010 from from the University of Virginia as a double major in media studies and studio art with concent- um, with concentrations in film and can cinematography. She then went on to receive an MFA in film and video from California Institute of the Arts. In 2014, she attended Disney and DreamWorks animation class. She helped um she helped um the fifth year fellowship in the um, McIntyre Department of Art in 2010. Films. Films. Harrison films are experimental and rooted in Caribbean heritage and folklore. Her films have been screened at the New York Film Festival, Rotterdam International Film Festival, and Edinburgh International Film Festival. She uses public appearances to offer advice for their inspiration for aspiring artists. Field notes. 2014 is a visual guide to the spiritual culture of Trinidad and Tobago. Harrison shares her own stories about shapeshifters, bloodsuckers, and alongside the ghosts of Ireland's past. In 2014, the Best Local International Film Festival. 16, 2015. The coming of age story. Harrison's Harrison's mother metamorphoses from a difficult childhood to a beautiful adulthood. It it's premiered at the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival in 2015, where it was nominated for the Best Short Film. Forgotten from the Love of Liberty, 2016, is a poem about curses and superstitions named after the anthem of Trinidad and Tobago. Harrison continues to make films, remaining with Pixar animated short Pixar animated short Hair Love, which celebrates a positive black father-daughter relationships. through the usage of black hair. The film received $284,000 Kickstarter funding after the campaign held by NL and the Matthew Cherry Hair. Love won Best Animated Short Film at the 92nd Academy Awards. Illustration and books. Harrison used Instagram to get her first commissions. Through this meeting, which led to live films on iPad in New York, she was inspired to create children's picture books after moving back to Trinidad and Tobago in 2016. Harrison attended the SCBWI Mid-Atlantic Conference, where she entered and won a drawing competition. Draw This. Have her illustrations shared in the industry partners. This was the beginning of her illustrating and writing career. 2 months later, she had an agent, Simon and Schuster. Harrison illustrated Schuster and Caviar Seagull's Festival of Colors. The story of Holly, due January 2018. Her illustrations also appeared in CC Love Science by Kimberly Dirty and Shelley R. Jones. Her book as an illustrator, Sule, won the 2020 NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literacy Work in Children category. Little Series. The Little Leader series, the best-selling book, Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History, that tells a story of 40 African-American women who shaped history. Harrison says that she was inspired during Black History Month when she began to illustrate who shaped history. Harrison says that she was inspired during Black History Month when she began to illustrate and write about Black women from African history. The book was picked up by the publishers. The book was picked up by the publishers Little Brown Books and both a UK March 2018 and US December 2017 version. The book includes stories of Mae Jemison, Katherine Johnson, Maya Angelou, Alice Bell. It was nominated for a NAACP Image Award before it was released in January 2018. Bessie Coleman appeared on The Daily Show to discuss Little Leaders.
Let's give her a round of applause. Very good. Very interesting. Talks about a really good illustrator and author. Excellent. Thank you, Aisa. Manahan, you're next.
Go on, girl, with that yellow belt.
Hi, I'm Renee. I did Barack Obama. The reason I did Barack Obama is that he was that he is a upright and just person. He was the first black president of the United States and served for 2 terms or 8 years. In those years, he has passed healthcare reforms, ended war in Iraq, and improved food and safety and improved the food and safety system, just to name a couple. He was the 44th president of the United States. His real name is Barack, sorry, Barack Houston Obama. He he was born in 1961 and is 60 years old. He's married to Michelle Obama and has two daughters named uh, Mila and Sasha Obama. Sorry, that was it.
Thank you. Short and sweet, right to the point. Thank you. Jer?
I'm a second degree black belt, and I did Samuel Jackson. The Okay, so Samuel Jackson, born on December 21st, 1948, in Washington D.C., is an American actor and producer. He is 73 years old and is best known for playing the role in Nick Fury in Marvel movies. He is also known for being the highest grossing actor of all time, which means that in the movies and TV shows he's acted in, he earned the most money out of any actor. And he received the Honorary Academy Award in 2022, which is an award given for extraordinary distinction and lifetime achievement, exceptional contributions to the state of motion picture arts and sciences, or for the outstanding services to the Academy. And he has appeared in over 150 movies. He grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where he attended several segregated schools and graduated from Riverside High School in Chattanooga. He attended Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. After joining the local acting group to earn extra points in the class, he found an interest in acting and switched his major from marine biology to acting. After Martin Luther King Jr.'s death and assassination in 1968, Jackson attended his funeral in Atlanta as one of the ushers. That was it.
Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing about Samuel Jackson. I'm sure we learned something about him. Thank you, Chair. Conrad?
Oh, I'm up. I thought I was fifth. Okay.
Well,
Conrad
numbers
Johnson.
change. So yeah, you know what the Dojo Creed says? Be ready.
founded. The school is named after the bay where we live, the Great South Bay. In 1966, Osensei Richard D. Lazarus became the 12th person to obtain black belt under Shion Prieto. It's a little tough to read. They would go on to bestow the black belt rank to hundreds of other diligent students. Later in Osensei Lazarus' martial arts training, he began to study other arts to increase his skill and knowledge. He would go on to study to improve himself Aikido, Shotokan Karate, Kendo, as well as Aikido. He would begin his studies for the better two from the. He would begin his studies for the latter two with Sensei Khan at the Ken Zen Institute. Judo rounded out his training, and he made his rank with the USJA. He would demonstrate forearms, and with his blood, sweat, and tears, and hard work, he would incorporate everything into his own style and his own system yet to come. Dainomon Ryu Jiu-Jitsu was founded in the year of 1968. While studying various martial arts, Osensei Richard Lazarus established the school for his form of jiu-jitsu, following his sensei's Predator's footsteps. But before teaching any technique that he had created, he made sure it was effective and practical. Was his number one priority. During his time in law enforcement, it's a little difficult to read. During his time in law enforcement, he had the opportunity to test these new techniques and perfect them. Osensei Lazarus would also work with many different departments, including narcotics, arson, and the explosive unit. Throughout his experience in law enforcement, Osensei Lazarus would have many opportunities to refine his martial arts and gain insight into many situations where the martial arts were most necessary and effective. Osensei Lazarus' system of jiu-jitsu was unique in the sense that it was constantly evolving, constantly evolving and making sure that different techniques would work. I can't finish the lecture without touching basically on the school that he came from, which was the Tremont School in the Bronx under Pareto. I'll read this quickly. Anthony Pareto, Osensei's instructor, was a young American soldier and he participated in hand-to-hand demonstrations. When ordered to punch one of the instructors in the face, he complied, only to find himself whipped around into a chokehold during World War II. Pareto learned as much as he could about specialized combat methods. He continued to experiment and practice with the techniques, refining them sometimes under life and death situations. A warrior's quest was the ultimate martial arts after the war. His warrior quest for additional knowledge took him to many schools in search of martial arts. In 1950, he began a formal study of judo with Leaf Coca brothers. He began to research how victims of crimes were attacked and devised methods of practical defense, response against real street attacks. In 1960, he opened a martial arts school on Tremont Avenue in the South Bronx, New York. He called his rough and tumble method of fighting combato. But the puzzle was still not complete. In 1962, he embarked on a journey to Japan. His plan was to study from the source and perhaps to gain a better sense of martial principles. Training in Japan with the world's best, as he observed the practice at the Aikido school, Pareto recognized similarities to what he had been doing all along. Pareto set out to learn the more refined methods. His fierce resolve and dedication won him many honors. Among them were a teaching certificate from Osensei Yoshiba, son of the founder of Aikido, and a Nidan in Judo from the Kodokan, the birthplace of Judo. Pareto returned to the United States and resumed teaching at the Tremont School. Pareto would later earn Sen. Whoa, this is going to be a tough one. Mokaraku in Soshujitsu Ryu Jujitsu, Kuro Jujitsu from then current headmaster Professor Shitama. Samurai self-defense refined for that the Western lifestyle and philosophy differ from the Eastern. He adapted the physical techniques and mindset of the samurai warrior to the culture of the dangerous streets of the modern urban South Bronx. In effect, he created one of the few combat methods suited to today's streets. The combined elements of judo, aikido, koryu, jiu-jitsu, karate, boxing, and the less organized but no less effective element of Western street style fighting. In 1964, he formalized the name of his electric method, Miyama Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, which means School of the Three Mountains in English, or Tremont in French. This was the avenue on which the school was located. In 1973, Pareto researched the classical ranking system of the Japanese system. He decided to use the ranking structure and non-inclinature of the Japanese martial art, both classical and modern. He took the title of Shion, which means original, posted with eBay, and that's that.
Thank you, Conrad.
I'm done.
Sound like a well-rounded person.
All right.
Round of applause. Good job, Conrad.
I thought I had to break out my original black belt. I had it upside down. My original certificate. See, and they would do it by hand back then.
Oh, very interesting.
That's cute.
That's a nice visual. Linda, either pull your camera down or sit up. All we see is the top of your head. Good job.
Okay, Jumbo.
All right, Jumbo. Ibrahim.
Ibrahim, y'all want to move up to the camera a little bit more?
Hear you.
Move up. Turn on your mic.
Oh, I'll be speaking about Muhammad Ali. It's about a 15-minute presentation, so I'll abbreviate it in some sections. Muhammad Ali was born on January 17th, 1942, in Louisville, Kentucky. He was an African-American boxer. Muhammad Ali was the only professional boxer to win the heavyweight championship 3 times. He provided leadership and an example for African-American men and women around the world with his political and religious views. Muhammad Ali was born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. on January 17, 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky, the first of Cassius Marcellus Clay Sr. and Odessa Grady Clay's 2 sons. His father was a sign painter who also loved to act, sing, and dance. His mother worked as a cleaning lady when money was tight. Ali began boxing at the age of 12. His bicycle had been stolen, and he reported the theft to a policeman named Joe Martin, who gave boxing lessons in a local youth center. Martin invited Ali to try boxing and soon saw that he had talent. Martin began to feature Ali on his local television show, Tomorrow's Champions, and he started Ali working out at Louisville's Columbia Gym. An African-American trainer named Fred Stoner taught Ali the science of boxing. Among the many things Ali learned was how to move with the grace and ease of a dancer. Although his schoolwork suffered, Ali devoted all of his time to boxing and improved steadily. As a teenager, Ali won both the National Amateur Athletic Union, AAU, and Golden Gloves championships. At the age of 18, he competed in the 1960 Olympic Games held in Rome, Italy, winning the gold medal in the light heavyweight division. This led to a contract with a group of millionaires called the Louisville Sponsors Group. It was the biggest contract ever signed by a professional boxer. Ali worked his way through a series of professional victories, using a style that combined speed with great punching power. He was described by one of his handlers as having the ability to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Ali's unique style of boasting, rhyming, and expressing confidence brought him considerable media attention as he moved toward a chance to fight for the World Heavyweight Boxing Championship. When he began to write poems predicting his victories in different fights, he became known as the Louisville Lip. Both the attention and his skill as a fighter paid off. In February 1964, when he was only 22 years old, he fought and defeated Sonny Liston for the heavyweight championship of the world. Inspired by Muslim spokesman Malcolm X, who was born 1925 and lived to 1965, Ali began to follow the Black Muslim faith and announced that he had changed his name to Cassius X. This was at a time when the struggle for civil rights was at a peak, and the Muslims had emerged as a controversial but important force in the African American community. Later, the Muslim leader Elijah Muhammad gave him the name Muhammad Ali, which means beloved of Allah. In his first title defense in May 1965, Ali defeated Sonny Liston with a first-round knockout. Ali successfully defended his title 8 more times. In April 1967, Ali was drafted into military service during the Vietnam War. He claimed that as a minister of the Black Muslim religion, he was not obligated to serve. The press criticized him as unpatriotic, and the New York State Athletic Commission and World Boxing Association suspended his boxing license and stripped him of his heavyweight title. Ali told Sports Illustrated, "I'm giving up my title, my wealth, maybe my future. Many great men have been tested for their religious beliefs. If I pass this test, I'll come out stronger than ever." Ali was finally sentenced to 5 years in prison, but was released on appeal, and his conviction was thrown out 3 years later by the US Supreme Court. Ali returned to the ring and beat Jerry Quarry in 1970. 5 months later, he lost to Joe Frazier, who had replaced him as the heavyweight champion when his title had been stripped. Ali regained the championship for the first time when he defeated George Foreman, who had beaten Frazier for the title, in a fight held in Zaire in 1974. Ali referred to this match as the Rumble in the Jungle. Ali fought Frazier several more times, including a fight in 1974 staged in New York City and a bout held in the Philippines in 1975, which Ali called the Thriller in Manila. Ali won both matches to regain his title as the World Heavyweight Champion. In 1975, Sports Illustrated magazine named Ali its Sportsman of the Year. I'm going to skip through some parts here. As Ali's boxing career ended, he became involved in social causes and politics. He campaigned for Jimmy Carter and other Democratic political candidates and took part in the promotion of a variety of political causes addressing poverty and the needs of children. He even tried to win the release of 4 kidnapped Americans in Lebanon in 1985. As a result, his image changed and he became respected as a statesman. At the 1996 Summer Olympic Games in Atlanta, Georgia, the world and his country honored Ali by choosing him to light the Olympic torch during the opening ceremonies. In his retirement, Ali devoted much of his time to philanthropy. Over the years, Ali supported the Special Olympics, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, among other organizations. In 1996, he lit that Olympic cauldron at the Summer Olympic Games in Atlanta, an emotional moment in sports history. And it was also emotional because at that time, Ali was suffering from Parkinson's disease. So he wasn't running like many other athletes to light that torch. He was stumbling and cautiously making his way to light that torch. And when he finally did it, it was a great moment. It showed that also people that were somewhat disabled could be champions and inspired a great many people. Actor Will Smith played Ali in the biopic film Ali, released in 2001. Ali died on June 3rd, 2016 in Phoenix, Arizona, after being hospitalized for what was reportedly a respiratory issue. He was 74 years old. And his wife at the time said, Muhammad indicated that when the end came for him, he wanted us to use his life and death as a teaching moment for young people, for his country, and for the world. In effect, he wanted us to remind people who are suffering that he had seen the face of injustice, that he grew up during segregation, and that during his early life, he was not free to be who he wanted to be. But he never became embittered enough to quit or to engage in violence. You have inspired us and the world to be the best version of ourselves, Rasheedah Ali spoke to her father. May you live in paradise, free from suffering. You shook up the world in life, and now you're shaking up the world in death. Now you are free to be with your creator. We love you so much, Daddy. Until we meet again, fly, butterfly, fly. Ali's stature as a legend continues to grow even after his death. He's celebrated not only for his remarkable athletic skills, but for his willingness to speak his mind and his courage to change the status quo. I also personally remember Ali as a great poet who gave one of the briefest and most inspiring poems in the English language, which states simply, me, we.
That's
my presentation.
Thank you. Give him a great big round of applause. Thank you for reminding us of his greatness. As I said earlier, we want to make sure each one teach one, and we also remind one another. Daryl?
She's person. We honor those that are here. We okay. Hanshi Sabu was born in 1949 in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and had an uncle who was in the service and had learned the martial arts. When Hanshi Lewis was Sabu to school, he started.
Okay, you're breaking up. You're breaking up awfully. You're breaking up awfully.
Okay.
You can, to help that, you can turn off your video and just use your microphone. So if you have issues, just cut your video, the microphone, speak.
Okay. You can hear breaking up now?
Keep talking.
Okay. Mr. Lewis studied for Sensei Brian Adams, who had gotten him his start, and he continued on to black belt. Now, one thing he mentioned that he had a rival that he would always take on during the tournaments, and he never got a chance to win. But he kept his nose to grindstone and keep moving and keep moving. And this on his professional. He started teaching.
Not helping. It's not helping. It's not helping. It's not helping. Any other ideas, Donnie? Hold on.
Nope, I'm out. That's the best you can do. get close to your wireless access point as possible, and that's it.
You're not on your portal, Daryl, are you?
No, I'm not. Unfortunately, I can't connect on the portal.
Okay.
I would suggest that he just keeps talking and we just listen attentively.
Okay.
I can send you a link to connect on the portal, Daryl. I can send you a link to connect on the portal. Do you need that?
Oh, let me get.
Sorry.
Whoops. Wait. Okay. On the portal. I don't.
Hold on a second. I'll send it. Give me a second.
On the '70s, and he started also working at Sauce on Lewis and Putnam Avenue, which was the old armor, and he taught there. He understood how to connect with you and how to give the place don't get caught up in aspects growing up for us. Not for our youth to get older. I personally dealt in the early 80s because this gave us a room. Summertime when we wanted to work out over there, the door was open. You never closed the door to anybody. We just go to Crown Heights where it's no nice where after want to do and individuals out there Crown Heights have a way of putting things down to get what they wanted. So I do wow. It's a sore time, and I could tell by the pain and the emotion in his voice. He spoke about this. He never had any conflict with law enforcement or the establishment. In fact, he was loyal times towards spiritual and by always emphasizing spiritual and his students had discipline necessary to get through a lot of nonsense that was going on at the time, and also the best way to put forward is to say that he had the inner integrity that flips outward when you meet certain people. You can tell that this is a pretty person not to mess with. He continued on. Considered not foundational individuals in Brooklyn, but first generation individuals. First generation individuals are people like Soke Little John Davis, Robert Crossan, people like that. Those are what we call first generation. The foundational people like Cofield, Puppet, Shaka Zulu, Master Moses Powell. Those were people who were foundational, especially in Brooklyn, were foundational for the arts. Nahanshi Lewis is a first generation, and as first generation, he continues to teach over restoration. Now he said never stay too far away from the street, and he always stays with youth and teaches youth and continues to be for them, even though time can wear a person down. It never wears them out. It just makes them. I'm gonna, and that's my. And that's. I'm going to turn the camera back on. I'm sorry for the difficulty.
All right, Daryl. We too are sorry for the fact that we couldn't hear your presentation better about Master Sabu. Those of us that was in Brooklyn or in New York know of his dojo that was on Fulton Street back in the day. So maybe at another time you'll be able to do a presentation and we can learn more about this giant. Thank you for your efforts. Donnie.
Jumbo, everybody. How y'all doing today?
All right.
Let's start this off a little bit differently. I'm going to make this to a certain extent. I'll start off with interactive, and then we'll get into the history.
I knew you.
That's right. Got to teach. We're an institution of higher learning. So how many people have been to Disney World? Raise your hand. Okay, I'm just checking. Good. Some people have been to Disney World. How many people have been to the South? How many people have been past Washington, D.C.? That means North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. I keep going on if y'all don't stop me. So you all have, right? And what was your experience like when you went to those places? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up. It was a good experience. Okay, some people, man, some thumbs ain't going up. Some thumbs ain't going up. Well, I'm going to tell you about the person today who's one of my heroes who made for African-American people to be able to travel into the South, and B, for us to do many of the things that we take for granted, like being able to go to school. My hero is a man by the name of Charles Hamilton Houston. He's one of the most underrated, most underrated leaders of the civil rights movement. So let me tell you a little bit about Charles Hamilton Houston. Charles Hamilton Houston is the man who dismantled Jim Crow. He is a lawyer. So he was born in Washington, D.C. in September 3rd, 1985 to a middle-class family. Graduated his high school with honors, and he went to Amherst College, which is in New England, right? And he graduated from Amherst college as the valedictorian of his school. He was the only Black person in the school, and he graduated valedictorian. So stop and think about how brilliant that man was to go through that time period. After graduation, he went to serve in World War I. And you have to remember that the armed forces at this time were incredibly segregated. And while in World War I, he experienced such mistreatment and such racism that he had never experienced before, that it made him say that if I can risk my life to fight other people in other countries, then I will risk my life and dedicate my life to helping my people to overcome racism. So as he was a warrior as well as an intellect. So when he came back from World War I, he began teaching at Howard University. He taught English at Howard University. And he made a decision there to become a lawyer. So he went to Harvard Law School and Harvard Law School at the top of the class. Top of the class. This is a time where Black people eat college, never mind Harvard Law School. After graduating Harvard Law School, option, because at that time there were very few Black lawyers. He just could have, lived a very nice, comfortable life, had a nice house, sent his kids to wonderful schools, and made money. But what he decided to do is he decided to dedicate his legal practice to fighting legal injustice. And that's when his life really began. One of the notable things that he began to do after he began to challenge laws that allowed for discrimination, Jim Crow laws, he began to challenge laws. He realized that it was going to be impossible for one man to do this. He did what I wish that so many other Black leaders did. He came up with a system. What's interesting is that to everybody who's here, if one person is a leader and you kill that leader, you can kill that leader, right? But if that leader creates a system and he duplicates himself within that system, if you kill that leader, it doesn't matter, because that system will produce others like him that go on to address that system. And that's exactly what he did. So after practicing law for a while, he went to Howard University, which at the time, for those of you who don't know, Howard University is one of the leading HBCU, right? They had a law school that only worked in the evening, and it was taught by white lawyers. What he did is that he convinced the president of Howard University to get rid of that program and make the law program a full-time program. So he ditched the old law program at Howard University, put in a full-time law program, and then he began to recruit different legal professors. And in that incubator of Howard University, he began to produce lawyers who were focused on stopping laws that related to discrimination of African American people. So he produced hundreds of lawyers from Howard who would be the foundation of the law force of the NAACP and other legal groups that would later go on to challenge Jim Crow. Now, what was so amazing is that he would work typically from 9 to 6. He would eat dinner, and then every night from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning, he'd study legal journals to figure out how he could find case law where he could fight these discriminatory laws, both federally and in states. And he studied so hard that they were telling him that it was destroying his health, and that if he did not start to get rest at nighttime, he was going to die. It was just going to be a function of time before he died. And he was famously quoted as saying to them, he said, "Look at the state of my people." He said, I would rather die on my feet than begging on my knees. And that's exactly what he did. So he continued that pace. His efforts produced Thurgood Marshall. And everyone knows Thurgood Marshall. He's the first Supreme Court justice, the Black African American Supreme Court justice of the United States of America. And together, Marshall, and he died in preparing for the case. they were able to have the first case, which is Brown versus Board of Education, where they set the precedence of integration and the fact that you could not have a white school and a black school that was supposed to be separate from equal. So the fact that you all go to school without having issues based on race, the fact that you can travel to the South, the fact that you can go to Disney World, many of the things that we experience and take for granted as African Americans are a result of the hard work and life of dedication of Charles Hamilton Houston. He died on April 22nd, 1950 of heart failure due to overwork. So he died in preparing for that Brown versus a Board of Education. He literally dedicated his entire life to the upliftment of African American people. And that is my hero. I love that man. And I hope that everyone follows his example. His example is that you build systems that make your work continue to live on beyond. Ush, thank you.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you.
And this is the picture.
I am so glad to follow Donnie because I believe that great minds think alike. And I want to share and introduce to you one of my sheroes since I was a child. I was instructed by my teacher in elementary school to find someone to talk about for Black History Month. And I chose this lady because she was a great educator. But I was so impressed by her stature. She seemed to me as a child to be at least 6 or 7 feet tall. The very tall African-American lady. And I'm not only talking about, as a child, it was a physical height that impressed me. But as I learned more about her, I realized there was more to her than her height. Her name is Mary Mcleod Bethune. I'm going to share this picture. Hope everybody can see her. And I was also blessed to teach my second grade class for years about Mary Mcleod Bethune in the New York City public school curriculum called Fighting for a Cause. She was born in 1875 in South Carolina. She was the 15th child of 17 for her family. Her family was sharecroppers, and she was the only child that was allowed to go to school. She would walk 5 miles to school and 5 miles back. And she would come home and teach her siblings everything that she learned. Of course, she went to a one-room school. And she decided, well, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to continue to help others. She was such a great student that she got a scholarship to go to college, not once, but twice. After completing those 2 scholarships for college, she came back and went back to her one-room schoolhouse and started teaching. Again, she decided, well, now it's not enough. I want to open my own school. And she continued teaching African-American children throughout her life. She decided with $1.50 in her pocket, she was going to move from South Carolina to Daytona Beach, Florida, because they were starting a railroad. And she knew that a lot of African-American families were going there because they needed money. So that was her opportunity to teach the children who she knew could not probably go to school. From there, she decided, well, I'm still not satisfied. There are men, African-American men, who cannot vote because they don't know how to read and write. That was a criteria. Sound kind of familiar, certain things you have to have in place in order to vote. Well, they seem to be bringing that back now. So she decided, well, I'm going to teach these African-American men how to read and write so they can now go and exercise their right to vote. And then, if you thought that was a lot, she continued on and opened the first African-American hospital. And she also started the Bethune-Cookman College. Close the door. Day. Something else about her is that she worked with 3 American presidents. So imagine that. You are an African-American educator with 2 degrees from the rural South. Your parents are sharecroppers, and you get to work with President Roosevelt, President Hoover, and President Coolidge. She became great friends with Eleanor Roosevelt, and they worked together for years. This is her in the Capitol, which most African American back then never heard of before. She died in 1955. She also was the director of the Division of Negro Affairs. And she also had a stamp. The Black Heritage stamp featured Mary Mcleod Bethune. But one of the quotes that she is quoted for saying that sticks with me to this very day, the whole world opened to me when I learned to read. And now you guys have, I believe that all of the educators, especially African Americans, stand on her shoulders and they don't know it. So we hear about Alma John, you hear about all these new people. They did a great job, but I believe she started it. So she should be recognized for her greatness. And you know how we say my name, say my name? Well, I think we all should remember her name, Mary Mcleod Bethune. Thank you. Us. Now, Linda, I'm sorry, Linda.
Jumbo. I'm going to present Bessie Coleman. I had never heard of her before, which I'm sure a lot of you probably haven't either. And her name should be mentioned all the time. She's the first African-American woman to get a pilot's license.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, she was born in 1892. I'm sorry. She was born in 1892 in Atlanta, Texas. She's one of 13 children. Through her perseverance and determination, she was able to get a license. You know, at that time it was discrimination, of course, because of gender and racial discrimination was very hard. They would not let her attend a school here in the United States, so she taught herself French and moved to France, where she attended France's well-known Cordron Brothers School of Aviation, where she graduated in 7 months. Her parents, of course, were sharecroppers, and they had a hard time, you know what I mean, trying to make ends meet, as she was one of 13 children. So she moved to Chicago and began reading stories about World War I pilots, where she became interested in doing that. So we went to school. Like I said, they would not let her go into American schools. She had to go to France to enter their school. She got her license to fly. She wanted to start her own school, but she specialized in stunt flying and parachuting, and earned her first name, and earned a name. You know, she died in 1926. And today, only 1% to 2% of American pilots are female. And that's still going on today. Yes. And that's the end of my story.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yes, Bessie Coleman, represent.
Yes. Okay, so I gotta go. Jumbo.
Linda.
Have a good day, Linda.
Jumbo.
All right.
Would anyone mind if I shared a few little more tidbits about Bessie Coleman?
Sure.
She wasn't just the first African American woman to get a pilot's license. She was a stunt pilot and what was called at that time a barnstormer. So she would fly these old rickety planes. This was at the time that aviation was just being developed. So they didn't have the safety features that they have now. And she was often strapped for fun. So she would have to be a mechanic as well and repair the planes and buy used planes. And she was a crowd pleaser. So people would come from miles around and it would be a big media event whenever she did one of her air shows, barnstorming. So she really showed people what African Americans can do. And she had a horrendous accident when she fell out of the sky, basically, and was out of commission for a few years. And a lot of people would have just quit back then. But she got back on the wagon, back in the pilot seat, and continued her flying career until she had an accident where someone else was flying the plane, and they got caught in the stall, and she wound up passing away with that other person. And that's my little tidbit about Bessie Coleman.
Well, thank you, Ibrahim, for sharing more than a tidbit. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good tidbit.
Yes. Charlene.
Hello, everyone. As I was doing my research. My research was supposed to have been the first cell phone. But as I got deeper into this person, Henry T. Sampson Jr., he wasn't the first person who invented the cell phone. He was the first person who laid the groundwork, the mechanics of doing the cell phone. What I mean is that he was the first Black person also to receive his PhD and MS, his master's degree and a PhD in nuclear engineering. He attended University of California. Then he transferred to Illinois, and that's where he received his PhD. What he invented, he was awarded the patent for a gamma electrical cell. This is a technology that was used to detect radiation in the ground and to convert it into electricity and to use it for the cell phones. The first person who really invented the cell phone was a Dr. Martin Cooper, but we're not talking about him. We're not going to talk about him. Also, Dr. Henry Sampson. He was a writer, film historian, a documentary, and a film producer. He wrote 5 books, which was interesting. The books that he wrote was about how Blacks was portrayed in films, cartoons, and stage. Another title of his book was Blacks in Blackface. I found one of his books was, y'all remember Warner Brothers. At the end of Warner Brothers, the cartoon, at the end, it always says, that's it, folks. But his title of the book was That's Enough, Folks. And that was, so that was, that book was about how the Blacks was portrayed in cartoons from 1900 to 1960. And as I was doing also the research, I saw Warner Brothers did a cartoon in blackface. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that they did cartoons in blackface back then. It was unbelievable. So
there you go.
Wake up call.
I was like, they put that on TV. I was like, oh my God. It's unbelievable. It's when you start doing and they always said, if you want to hide something, put it in the books.
There you go.
Right? Put it in the books. But once you start doing your research and to learn, it's unbelievable what you'll find. And also, so his nuclear reaction produced stable high voltage and the currents, and that's how they was detect radiation in the ground. So when you was hearing the rumors about the cell phone, about it, it was some truth to the about the cell phones giving off radiation, because that's how you had a device that detects this radiation, turns this radiation to electricity to use through the cell phones, and we use the cell phones like it was a second part of our body. So when you use these cell phones, and it was like, oh, don't have it too close. It was a reason why, because it is radiation using these cell phones, and it turned into the cell phone turned into a big multi-dollar conglomerate. And it's just amazing how one person invented a device to draw radiation to draw the radiation out the ground, to use the energy to supply the world, and then how we all connected through as time goes on, from cell phones to internet to, so we all connected together. And I was just amazed is just how this one person just did all this by himself. It's just amazing.
Wow.
That's it.
And we wonder why our subtitle is the Martial Arts Institution of Higher Learning. Clap it up. Very good, Charlene. Excellent, excellent. Khalil, are you ready?
One quick thing I want to add. Can I just add something?
You have a tidbit too?
Yeah. Okay. As an electrical engineer, I want to add something. So I would say the initial phones may have used energy, but the current phones don't. So while the research he did was found at the beginning, the current phones don't have any gamma radiation, any of those radiations, but they still use so much power to connect to those radio waves. They're closely exposed to the body. Those radio waves do damage the body, but it's not from the gamma radiation. It's from the radiation from the the power from the phones.
All I know is I remember back
sharing that because we don't want to go and throw away our cell phones.
Right.
So
put all our phones out like this.
But we should know already that anything that we use should be done in moderation. That's something that we should know anyway. Before they tell us that, we should already know that. Based upon our experience of people in this country, we should already know that anything that we do should be done in moderation and to do your own research. Thank you, Charlene. Brother Khalil, are you ready?
Dr. Charlene.
Oh.
Yeah.
I just want you guys to see how Sister Naja over there is sporting that t-shirt. So she have her own look. No, I just want you to know. She's the first. You go, girl. Brother Khalil.
Yes, ma'am. Good. Okay, the first I'm going to speak about is Lewis Howard Latimer. A lot of people credit Thomas Edison as inventing the light bulb, but Lewis Latimer, he's the actual person who invented and developed the actual filament that lights the light bulb. A lot of people don't know about that. Anyway, he was born September 4th, 1848 in Chelsea, Massachusetts. He died December 11th, 1928 in Flushing, Queens, New York, at the age of 80 years old. His inventions included, number one, the evaporative air conditioner. Number two, the carbon filaments that light the light bulbs. Number three, he improved the toilet system for railroad cars of that time period. In 1884, Mr. Latimer joined the Edison Electric Light Company, where he worked as a draftsman and wrote the first book on electric lighting. His house is located near the Latimer housing projects, and it is a historic house located at 34-41 137th Street in Flushing, Queens, New York. His spouse was Mary Wilson Lewis. They married in 1873. He had two children, Jeanette Latimer and Louise Latimer. When Mr. Latimer was 10 years old, his mother decided to split the family after the Dred Scott case in 1857, which ruled that individual slaves needed to prove that they had consent from their owner in order to legally become free.
Mm.
In other words, they had to have papers to prove that they were free from their slave master. During that time, the Latimers had to live free by escaping into free states in order not to be returned to the slave owners by the quote unquote interstate slave catchers, which is the forerunners of police today.
Right.
In 1865, he worked with a patent law office, earning $3 a week. He learned how to use a set square ruler and other drafting tools. Mr. Latimer was promoted to head draftsman, earning $20 per week in 1872. Today's equivalent, that would be about $438.59 today. In 1874, Mr. Latimer co-patented with Mr. Charles M. Brown, who was also African American, and improved the toilet system for railroad cars called the water closet. U.S. patent number 147. In 1876, he was employed by Alexander Graham Bell to draft the necessary drawings to receive a patent for Bell's telephone. In 1879, he was employed by Hiram Maxim, U.S. Electric Lighting Company. This is when Mr. Latimer invented the process for making carbon filaments, which lights the light bulb with incandescent light. In 1884, Mr. Latimer developed a forerunner of the air conditioner called, quote unquote, the apparatus for cooling and disinfecting system. In 1894, Mr. Latimer pursued a patent on a safety elevator apparatus, which prevented the riders from falling out of the elevator into the elevator shaft. In 1918, Mr. Latimer joined the Edison Pioneers. He was the first person of color to join this group of 100 people. In 1881, Mr. Latimer improved the design for producing light using electricity. This was known as the electric lamp. Also, he had patents. Number one, he had U.S. patent number 147-363, improvement in water closets for the railroad car, February 10th, 1874. Number two, U.S. patent 247-097, the electric lamp, which was awarded September 13th, 1881. Number three, U.S. patent 252-386, process of manufacturing carbon filaments, January 17th, 1882. Number four, U.S. patent number 255212, supporter for electric lamps, awarded March 21st, 1882. Number five, U.S. patent 334078, apparatus for cooling and disinfecting, which was the forerunner of air conditioners, awarded January 12th, 1886. Number six, U.S. patent 557076, locking rack for hats and coats and umbrellas, which was awarded March 21st, 1896. Patent number seven, U.S. patent 781-890, book supporter, which was awarded February 7th, 1905. Number eight, U.S. patent 986-787, which was lamp fixtures, awarded August 30th, 1910. He was also a writer. He wrote a book of poetry called Poems of Love and Life. He wrote technical books, incandescent electric lighting. Excuse me for a minute. I can't read my chicken scratcher. Anyway, he wrote pieces for African American journals as a journalist. And Mr. Latimer played violin and flute. He was a musician. He was an early advocate of civil rights in 1895. Mr. Latimer wrote the National Conference of Colored Men about equality, security, and opportunity. And that's it. Thank you very much.
So let's give Brother Khalil a big round of applause.
Wow.
We have a lot to thank Louis Latimer for.
Yeah.
So kudos to him. Of course, we do things and we don't always get the credit. Someone else takes the credit. So now we know the truth about the light bulb. It wasn't kind of. I'm going to break up that dynamic duel over there and let Hassan go first, and then Sister Naja.
Jumbo family. Can you hear me?
Jumbo.
Yes. Jumbo.
Yeah, first I would like to apologize. Got caught up in other things. And, it's really no excuse, but, I just want to make an apology. I don't know if we're going to have Women's Day. Have that been decided? Are we going to have a program for Women's Month? I guess it is next month.
Can you talk about who you're presenting today, please?
No, I'm just asking the question because
you put me on the spot right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But I had two people and I just wanted to kind of structure it in that way. But
anyway, I'll answer your question. Yes. We always do something for Women's History Month. So yes.
Okay. All right then. The person I want to speak about is Cut Joe Kazuma Lewis. And this individual was one of the 115 Africans that were captive and enslaved. And this individual was born in 1821 in the Dahomey area of West Africa. Presently is known as Benin. This individual with the 115 other Africans that were enslaved, they was brought to Mobile, Alabama. During that time, there was a ban on importing of Africans for enslavement at that time. But this wealthy individual, he done, I guess you would say, a covert sort of operation. And, with his funds, he was able to bring these individuals into Mobile, Alabama at that time. And when they got them there on this ship called the Kalita, when they got the ship there to the bay in Mobile, they destroyed the ships and they placed them in the swamp for a matter of days before they placed them on a riverboat. And then from that riverboat, they were I guess they were brought into Mobile, the area which is called Plateau, which is in Pritchard County, I guess it is, of Mobile. And these individuals that were there enslaved, they were worked, just like, most slaves are. But these individuals, they grew up in that area. And then the Civil War and the emancipation, they were freed. And after they were freed, they tried to raise funds. And Cut Joe was the one who was over that, I guess, program where they was trying to raise funds to go back to their homeland. So that did not work for them. And they were, they just went ahead and organized that township there, which was around Magazine Point. And they made a township called African Town. African Town still exists, but if you were to go there, you would not see anything but a sign today. Historians tried to preserve that area, but I guess they did not have the funding in order to preserve the area. Also, Cut Joe was interviewed by the famous writer by the name of Zora Houston's. She went there and she interviewed him, and she has a book out. It's titled Barracoon. I could not find the book. I may have loaned it to someone, but in that book, she wrote in the interview in the dialect in which he spoke. On several occasions, she went and met with Cut Joe and just got his story as far as their experience there in African Town. Many of the ones who also survived with him, they were also trying to get, I believe it was voting rights at that time. And they traveled in other areas of Alabama trying to get voting rights. And this is in the 1800s. Mr. Cudjoe, he passed away in 1935. He was the last survivor of these 115 Africans that were enslaved there in Mobile. And before his passing, he became a pastor of a church there in Pritchard, Alabama. I have a map of it. I don't know if you'll be able to see well, but I have a map of that area of Mobile. I know it's kind of difficult to be seen.
Put it close to the device. Put it up close.
I don't know.
Okay, okay, that's good.
It's black and white, but
don't worry, son. We all got Google Maps. It's all good.
But yeah, if you would research that. Also, this is the book. The title of this book is titled "The Spirit of Africa in Alabama," and that is him with his grandchildren on the cover of this book that I have here. And there was a statue created of Cudjoe, and it was placed at the church where I guess he pastored. And it was vandalized, and this is what really brought the attention to this individual and to African Town. And one lady, I think her name was Sylvia Deloff. She is a writer from Senegal, and she is the one who actually wrote this book that I'm telling you about, The Spirit of Africa in Alabama. And the other book was written by Zora Hustis, and it's titled The Barracoon.
Rush, thank you. Rush.
Last but certainly not. Let's give him a round of applause. So most of us probably know as Nora Zero Hurston, who wrote that book. She's a famous writer from the Harlem Renaissance era. And, that was a good book. And when it came out about him, that a lot of people were surprised. They're thinking that he was probably the last survivor.
Right.
So it's a good read. It has a lot of dialect from different language, but it was really interesting to hear it firsthand from someone who was actually a slave and was brought here from Africa. Sister Naja.
My legendary master, or aka Distinguished Black Achiever, is Rasul Nasir Soke. He was born in 1953, and he is with us today, presently. He's the chief executive and founder and father of Nasir Ryu. He was born December 9th, 1953 in Kings County Hospital, Brooklyn, New York. His mother's Elizabeth Evans. His father's Ephraim Flinning Spencer. He joined the Nation of Islam in 1974 and legally changed his name to Rasul Nasir. Rasul meaning messenger and Nasir meaning helper, which is true to his very nature. He brings knowledge and wisdom to us, and then he assists us in overcoming our own deficits with discipline, and he guides us and assists us in being successful in the discipline of the martial arts. The timeline is 1960 to 1966.
He was introduced to karate in the 4th grade at PS 148 in Brooklyn, New York. He was enrolled in the after-school program. In 1966 and 1969, he went to Mary Hopkins Junior High School. 33 and 1969 to 1973, he went to Harran High School in New York, and he was in the College Brown program. And he was granted a black belt from Sensei Ed Poe. And if you look at the timeline, it only took him from 1966 to 1973 to become a black belt, less than 8 or 9 years, which is a phenomenal feat. It's important that we know the scholars and the giants that live amongst us. We don't know them. And once we learn and know them, we have to support them. In 1979, he introduced the Mukmeen emblem for men, and Mukmeen means believer in Arabic. He has published many magazines and books from 1984 to 2012. He worked in the executive, from 1990, he worked in the executive protection program, and he worked with Imam Warthi Muhammad, Rahimahullah, may God be pleased with him, Al Sharpton, Minister Farrakhan, Imam Siraj Rahaj, Nelson Mandela, and he did this while working with the Fruit of Islam, and I forgot what that was, THS, and the 9th group. Tactical Dojo has been in existence for greater than 60 years, and he is now teaching 3rd-generation martial artist students. And in May of 1977, he became O-Sensei, teacher of teachers of Nasir Ryu Organization. And as I was looking through the book, I saw his certificate and saw the signature of the students underneath his name, saying that, yes, he is a sensei. He opened the Tactical Dojo in Crown House, Brooklyn in 2005. His first book was Secure Your Life, and also Masters Magazine was started around them. He also did Legendary Masters and Tactical Dojo magazine. In 2007, he introduced the Mukmeen emblem for women. In 2012, he started True Human Services. He started teaching martial arts at an early age in high school with Sensei Ed Poe, allowing him to teach his peers. As his peers went on and became sparring, as his peers went on to win sparring matches, after he taught them, he recognized that teaching was his niche. He started teaching as a green belt, and now he is considered a 10th Dan red belt, which I've never heard of. So, that's the highest level. Look what we have in our midst. I didn't even know that. And I knew him for a long time, and I just found that out this year. As per his wife, Miss Rasheedah Nasir has stated that and she's a teacher also of Nasir Ryu. She says to her husband, you take martial arts to a higher level. You intellectualize it, and it's probably the highest form of the art. As per Abdur Rahman Sadiq, who is a Rinstring, whatever that is, he states that there may be someone out there who could outfight you, but there's no one that can out-teach you, which these are high accolades. Rasul Nasir Soke is a great leader. He says to be a great leader, you have to be a great follower. He says, I use my experience of life to inspire students to achieve their highest goals. Inspiring parents toward volunteerism helps me to be a better martial arts teacher. His goal is to inspire his students, friends, and parents to assist in building the 27 ways of Nasir Ryu, the Nasir Organization and Tactical Dojo for future generations. He says we need to work together to do for self, and that is so true. If we continue to look for others who will help us, we will not be successful. Tactical Dojo, he said, is here to serve and secure the community life. Nasir Ryu Organization is a 21st century method of ultimate combative survival techniques. Tactical Dojo is a martial arts institute of higher learning. Rasul, this is my 2 cents. Rasul Nasir Soke teaches a holistic approach, which is unique. His teaching methodology includes physical, mental, as well as spiritual discipline, enabling the practitioner to fulfill his goal by incorporating his whole self in the practice of the martial arts discipline. Soke is a kind, and I'm not just saying that because he's sitting here looking at me. Soke is a kind but gentle and lethal expert. He is a legendary master in his field of expertise and distinguished Black achiever that has dedicated his whole life to teaching the 27 methods and the ways of Nasir Ryu to men, women, and children. He states humility, respect, patience, love, intelligence, coupled with martial arts qualities, will give us that guide that we need to move on through life. And last but not least, while he says always put God first, because you cannot do anything without getting your foundation, knowing that you can't do nothing. You cannot evolve unless it is the will of God. So he says always put God first, and that will ensure your success. So we have a legendary master amongst us, and I just found out a couple of months ago. So we need to make people aware of what we have in our midst so that we can go to Soke and learn, and what we learn, take it back to the community. Thank you.
Good. Good.
Let me say something about Sister Daja. When we first started out with this idea of doing, this program, I said nobody could do Soke. And I could stand my ground, and I said nobody was doing Soke. And that's what I meant at the time. But she was in the class with us, and she started laying down the foundation, and she got all enthusiastic, and she put me in a mental joint lock from New Jersey. She was not allowing me to tell her that she couldn't do Soke. So I humbly submitted because she was so adamant. I'm going to do Soke Rasul Nasir because. And she just kept laying it on. So finally I just said, hey, you may do Soke. It's okay. And she did a phenomenal job like everybody else. Because I'm sure, I said, well, I know a lot about Soke, but maybe there's some things that you guys didn't know. Exactly. And the way she put it together, I was like, wow. So he's all that in a bag of chips, and I didn't know all that. So thank you, Sister Daja.
You're welcome.
Everybody did a great job.
Yes.
We have some people who was no shows, so they missed out. Because I feel that we all were enlightened and informed. We can all go and find out some more about someone that we learned about today. As we continue to make sure that Tactical Dojo is a martial arts institution of higher learning. So I'm now going to turn the reins over to Soke Rasul Nasir.
Okay, wow. It's always good. It's always beautiful. It's all good. And I appreciate everybody taking time to do the research because you wanted to come with the facts as much as you could find. And that says a lot about the quality of people that we have in this organization. So that the world will hear about what you just did and what you're about to do and what you've done if they haven't already. And I don't really search for any recognition for what I do, because I do it first to please God. And I think this is what he wants me to do with my life. So I appreciate all the support that you give and all the help. We need more. As you can see, this technology is a learning experience for all of us. I've learned a lot since the pandemic, since coming out of the hospital with my surgery. And, so I had to find new ways of teaching, both intellectually and physically. So it seems to be working out. And we're inspiring a whole new generation of black belts to come up and carry on, and black belts to keep this going. So, again, I thank you all for being here today and participating. And I know you got a busy schedule, so I'm not going to hold you. But this is what I was supposed to be getting into. So as I did say, if we were to go overtime, we didn't have enough time today. The next time I see you, whatever class it is, this is what we're going to concentrate on, rope techniques. And so make sure you have yours. It should be about 50 inches long, not 100, not 1,000, just 50 inches, something like that. You can go like that, measure it, do a ruler or whatever, and we're going to work on certain techniques with the rope. There's much you can do with something simple as this. If you don't have it, I sent you all the link, but don't go and buy the whole packet. Just ask them at Home Depot and cut it 50 inches. Hardware store, cut it about 50 inches or 100 inches. That way you have two. And have it ready for next week. Put a knot on both ends. Okay. You can burn the tip of it so it don't come loose. Okay. But have that and be ready.
Soke, before you end this beautiful session that we're having, Hassan kind of sort of put this out there, so now we can address it. As we know, March is Women's History Month. And I was talking to Soke about it because Hassan asked me, are we going to do anything for Women's History Month? And in the past, we always picked someone who was famous or a pioneer, and we would do that in the dojo. But I was thinking that we should, humbly, I was thinking that perhaps we need to do our parents or someone in your family, because we learn a lot about famous people and pioneers and stuff like that. But I humbly believe that we all are standing on the shoulders of our parents and our grandparents. So, if you guys agree, we can do that for next month. It doesn't have to be long, but it kind of sort of lets you know, well, what's your good stock? You come from good stock. And we always sometimes just put that in the back burner and no one really knows about it. And that's what makes us who we are. So if you don't mind, I know that everybody don't have great relationships. It might not have a great relationship with their parent or somebody like that, but find some woman in your family that you would like to share, who have inspired you or something like that. And it doesn't have to be anybody famous. Like Soke can definitely share his mom, because his mom is the reason why he's doing what he do, and we're in her house. So I'm sure he has no choice but to share his mom. So I'm putting it out there. He's sharing his mom.
Yeah, my mom is all over. The pictures up there on the dojo, all over. So I support that whole idea. We should talk about, I know a lot about certain people's parents. The main one I know about is Donnie's mom. And her and I go way back when she first brought him to me when he was a little boy. 5, 6 years old, something like that. And we've had a relationship throughout the years. So, but anyone else, I'll be glad to hear about it, learn about it, your moms. If you want to talk about your moms, no matter your age, because that's a wonderful thing. Without the moms, we wouldn't be here, man. So let's talk about them. Grandma, the woman close to you in your life, whichever one you want to talk. And we got to show some pictures. Show some pictures, because we didn't see any props today. Except
Yes,
for the
we
mat.
did. We saw a few props.
Just the mat. But
No.
mainly, show some pictures. Okay, wifey. Show some pictures. Bring some nice pictures and show them, and make your presentation look better.